30 years ago, it started out as fairly infrequent tremors in my hands and has progressively gotten worse to where my head would move involuntarily, and more frequent was the change in my voice. It was embarrassing at work and in social settings. My wife would have to actually take the communion for me and hand it to me because it was just too embarrassing. I'd spill wine on the carpet, on my shirt, so she had to help me with that. So after seeing my neurologist and going through the fact that I had tried different medications and nothing seemed to work, it was recommended that I see the doctors at Michigan Head and Spine Institute.
So when I first saw Paul at the end of 2014, he was suffering horribly from a disease called essential tremor disorder, which basically makes the body unable to control its own movements. So he would have involuntary shaking of his arms, his legs, his head, and his voice. So he had gone on for years that way, and ultimately medications weren't working anymore. He was starting to have difficulty at work and in social situations, and was really struggling.
As soon as I met him, I knew I was at the right spot.
Paul elected to have this treated with surgery, which we did earlier this year. It's a two-stage process where the first part of the surgery is done with the patient awake. We do that so we can monitor them very closely during surgery. We record their brain activity, and once we have the electrodes in the right position, we can actually turn them on with the patient awake. And for the first time in many years, patients stop shaking. So it's always a very profound moment in the operating room when patients see for the first time their hand, which shakes like this most of the time, now suddenly is motionless.
It was just amazing to me, the fact that I could be in brain surgery, but awake and talking and actually seeing the difference the surgery was making.
It takes usually around 3 hours, and then patients spend one night in the hospital, come back a week later, and they go to sleep under general anesthetic, and we'll place the batteries on the chest wall, and then they go home that same day.
So this is the controller. It turns on and off the pacemakers that are in my chest, and at night I actually turn the entire unit off, because at night the shaking isn't there, obviously, as I'm sleeping.
So the surgery is great. It's very fine-tuned nowadays. It's very safe for patients. The complications overall are low, and patients do fantastic with it. Of all the kind of different things I do, deep brain stimulation surgery is by far the most rewarding thing, because you're really giving patients their quality of life back.
I couldn't do that before.